Upon the hills of Phrygia I have seen two sacred trees, a lime tree and an oak, so closely grown their branches interlace. A low stone wall is built around to guard them from all harm. And that you may not doubt it, I declare again I saw the spot, for Pythias there had sent me to attend his father's court. Near by those trees are stagnant pools and fens, where coots and cormorants delight to haunt, but it was not always so. Long ago 'twas visited by mighty Jupiter, together with his nimble-witted son, who first had laid aside his rod and wings. As weary travelers over all the land they wandered, begging for their food and bed. And of 1,000 houses all the doors were bolted, and no word of kindness given. So wicked were the people of that land. At last, by chance, they stopped at a small house whose humble roof was thatched with reeds and straw. And here a kind old couple greeted them. The good dame, Baucis, seemed about the age of old Philemon, her devoted man. They had been married in their early youth. In that same cottage they had lived in it and had grown together to a good old age, contented with their lot because they knew their poverty, felt no shame of it. They had no need of servants. The good pair were masters of their home and served themselves. Their own commands they easily obeyed. Now when the two gods, Jupiter and Mercury, had reached this cottage, and with bending necks had entered the low door, the old man bade them rest their wearied limbs, and set a bench on which his good wife Baucis threw a cloth. And then with kindly bustle she stirred up the glowing embers on the hearth, and then laid tinder, leaves and bark, and bending down, breathed on them with her ancient breath, and they kindled into flame. Then from the house she bought a store of small twigs and broken branches, and above them swung a kettle, not too large for simple folk. And all this done, she stripped some cabbage leaves, which her good husband gathered for the meal. Then with a two-pronged fork the man laid down a rusty side of bacon from aloft, and cut a little portion from the chine, which had been cherished long. He softened it with boiling water. All the while they tried a cheerful conversation to beguile, so none might notice a brief loss of time. Swung on a peg, they had a beechwood trough, which quickly with warm water filled, was used for comfortable washing, and they fixed upon a willow couch a cushion soft of springy sedge, on which they neatly spread a well-worn cloth, preserved so many years. 'Twas only used on rare and festive days, and even it was coarse and very old, though not unfit to match a willow couch. Now, as the gods reclined, the good old dame, whose skirts were tucked in, moving carefully, for she tottered with her many years, fetched a clean table for the ready meal. But one leg of the table was too short, so she wedged it with a potsherd. So made firm, she cleanly scoured it with fresh mint. And here is set the double-tinted fruit of chaste Minerva, and the tasty dish of corner, autumn picked and pickled. These were served for relish, and the end of green, and radishes surrounding a large pot of curdled milk, and eggs not overdone but gently turned in glowing embers, all served up in earthen dishes. Then sweet wine, served up in clay, so costly, all embossed in cups of beechwood smoothed with yellow wax. So now they had short respite, till the fire might yield the heated course. Again they served new wine, but mellow, and a second course, sweet nuts, dried figs, and wrinkled dates and plums, and apples fragrant, in wide baskets heaped, and in the wreath of grapes from purple vines, concealed almost a glistening honeycomb. And all these orchard dainties were enhanced by willing service and congenial smiles. But while they served, the wine bowl often drained, as often was replenished, though unfilled, and Baucis and Philemon, full of fear, as they observed the wine's spontaneous well increasing, when it should diminish, raised their hands in supplication, and implored indulgence for their simple home and fare. And now, persuaded by this strange event, such visitors were deities unknown. This aged couple, anxious to bestow their most esteemed possession, hastily began to chase the only goose they had, the faithful guardian of their little home, which they would kill and offer to the gods. But swift of wing, at last it wearied them, and fled for refuge to the smiling gods. At once the deities forbade their zeal, and said, a righteous punishment shall fall severe upon this wicked neighborhood, but by the might of our divinity no evil shall befall this humble home. But you must come and follow, as we climb the summit of this mountain. Both obeyed, and leaning on their staves, toiled up the steep. Not far from the summit, from the flight of the swift arrow from a hunter's how, they paused to view their little home once more. And as they turned their eyes, they saw their fields around them engulfed in a morass, although their own remained. And while they wept, bewailing the sad fate of many friends, and wondered at the change, they saw their home, so old and little for their simple need, put on new splendor, And as it increased, it changed into a temple of the gods, where first the frame was fashioned of rude stakes, columns and marble glistened, and the thatch gleamed golden in the sun, and legends carved adorned the doors. And all the ground shone white with marble rich. And after this was done, the son of Saturn said with gentle voice, "Now, tell us, good old man, and you, his wife, worthy and faithful, what is it that you desire?" Philemon counseled with old Baucis first, and then discovered to the listening gods their heart's desire. "We pray you let us have the care of your new temple, and since we have passed so many years in harmony, let us depart from this life together. Let the same hour take us both. I would not see the tomb of my dear wife, and let me not be destined to be buried by her hands." At once their wishes were fulfilled. So long as life was granted, they were known to be the temple's trusted keepers. And when age had enervated them with many years, as they were standing by some chance before the sacred steps and were relating all these things as they had happened, Baucis saw Philemon, her old husband, and he, too, saw Baucis as their bodies put forth leaves. And while the tops of the trees grew over them above their faces, they spoke to each other as long as they could speak and said, "Farewell, farewell, my own." And while they said farewell, new leaves and branches covered both at once. The people of Tyana still point out the two trees which grew from there with double trunk, two forms made into one. Old truthful men, who have no reason to deceive me, told me truly all that I have told you. And I have seen the votive wreaths hung from the branches of the hallowed double oak. And at one time, as fresh garlands were hung there, I said, "Those whom the gods care for are gods, and those who worship are now worshipped here."
Welcome back, everyone, to Covenants and Kingdoms. I'm your co-host, Brad, along with...
And I'm Nathan. Hey, guys. How y'all doing? Nice to be here.
Glad to be here as well. Welcome back to another episode, as we will be discussing Genesis 18.
Yeah, interesting passage.
It will be, yeah. Looking forward to that. But first, before we get into it, we are brought to you by Bama Java Coffee, located here in Birmingham, Alabama. With 3 coffee shops, and one in Homewood, Hoover, and Meadowbrook Village down near Doug Baker Boulevard. Looking for great coffee, specialty coffee, ethically sourced, traceable coffee. Go check us out. You can also go online at babajavacoffee.com. If you put in promo code Covenants at checkout, you'll receive 10% off your order, and you can use that to start a subscription. Buy a 2-pound bag, 20-pound bag. Well, we don't sell a 20-pound bag, but you can buy 20 pounds of coffee if you want.
Yeah, we will sell a 20-pound bag if you want to buy it.
We'll figure it out if you want that much, for sure. But check us out there, and if you're looking for great coffee in the Birmingham area or anywhere, come visit us. Glad to share it with you. All right, so that was a very interesting story.
Yeah. That was Ovid. Ovid is a very famous Roman poet, and this is from his work called the Metamorphoses, which it's a pretty long work. I can't remember which translation I read, but it's interesting. Obviously, the reason we read that is because it's about gods visiting this particular couple. Mm-hmm. A man and wife, just like we see in the story of Abraham. So there's very interesting correlations between the two, parallels between the two, and we'll talk about some of those. Some people remember Genesis. Genesis was compiled a lot longer than the time of Abraham. Abraham was probably alive between 1800, 2000 BC sometime, right?
Okay.
So that's when he was like an actual figure on the earth, right? And so it was after 1000 BC when all these things started to be compiled. Remember, history and writing weren't really a thing, okay? I mean, they couldn't go down to Walmart and buy composition books and write stuff out, right? So it was a lot harder. I mean, Moses literally wrote the laws on tablets of stone. I mean, that's what the Babylonians used, were clay tablets. Okay, that's what cuneiform is. So you didn't just write stuff down in 2000 BC. I mean, you just didn't. So how did they pass along all these traditions? Orally. The stories were passed along and passed along and passed along. And again, the culture is a lot different than our culture, right? Our culture, I mean, I can't remember what happened yesterday, right? There's no way I can accurately tell a story that happened to me yesterday and not leave out any details, right? I mean, there's no way. But their memories and the way they propagated information was a lot different back then, right? They had to. That's what they did. So they came up with ways in which to, I mean, listen, we have electricity. If it's nighttime, we can stay up really late. Why? Because we just flip the light switch on and we can stay up as late as we want to, right? Well, they didn't have that. I mean, they had fire, they had torches and things like that. But once it's dark, right? So what did you do? You told stories, all right? You can't go out in the fields. You can't do stuff. There's bad people. There's in the dark. Again, the unknown was scary to them. The unknown was things you didn't traverse. So when it's dark, you don't go out. You stay around the campfire and you tell stories. That's what they did. So they learned techniques in which to propagate those stories. That's how they propagated them. So it was after 1000 BC when these stories started to be compiled, right? So a lot of people were accusing some of the biblical stories of stealing from other cultures, right? So Ovid, this story that Ovid wrote was from 1st century AD. So how did Abraham's story, which was from 2000 BC approximately, compiled somewhere between 500 and 1000 BC, how did Ovid, who wrote in the 1st century, steal from him? Well, he didn't, right?
Of course, yeah.
Right? So anyway, it's the other way around, if anything.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, again, the Greeks were storytellers too, so they propagated a lot of these stories too. Anyway, the Bible didn't steal this story from Greek mythology. They didn't steal it from Ovid. All right. It's a story that's similar. It has some similarities, but it's not the same story. All right?
No, of course not.
Now, it's interesting that they have some parallels. All right. They talk about some similar themes, and one of the main themes, one of the main things that we can learn from both of these stories is the same. All right. And we'll talk about some of those things later. So,
all right. Well, let's get into it. We'll read Genesis 18, and then we'll walk through the relevancy.
Yeah.
What we're talking about.
So we're going to read Genesis 18 and then the first part of Genesis 19, 1 through 11.
And the Lord appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre as he sat at the door of his tent in the heat of the day. He lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men were standing in front of him. When he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them and bowed himself to the earth and said, O Lord, if I have found favor in your sight, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought and wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree, while I bring a morsel of bread, that you may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant. So they said, Do as you have said. And Abraham went quickly into the tent to Sarah and said, Quick, 3 seahs of fine flour, knead it and make cakes. And Abraham ran to the herd and took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to a young man who prepared it quickly. Then he took curds and milk and the calf that he had prepared, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree while they ate. They said to him, Where is Sarah, your wife? And he said, She is in the tent. The Lord said, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife shall have a son. And Sarah was listening at the tent door behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in years. The way of women had ceased to be with Sarah. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, After I am worn out and my Lord is old, shall I have pleasure? The Lord said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh and say, Shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return to you about this time next year, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. He said, No, but you did laugh. Then the men set out from there, and they looked down toward Sodom. And Abraham went with them to set them on their way. The Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? For I have chosen him, that he may command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has promised him. Then the Lord said, Because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and their sin is very grave, I will go down to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry that has come to me, and if not, I will know. So the men turned from there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham still stood before the Lord. Then Abraham drew near and said, Will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you then sweep away the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous who are in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to put the righteous to death with the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked. Far be that from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just? And the Lord said, If I find at Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Abraham answered and said, Behold, I have undertaken to speak to the Lord, I who am but dust and ashes. Suppose 5 of the 50 righteous are lacking. Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5? And he said, I will not destroy it if I find 45 there. Again he spoke to him and said, Suppose 40 are found there. He answered, For the sake of 40 I will not do it. Then he said, Oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Suppose 30 are found there. He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. He said, Behold, I have undertaken to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 are found there. He answered, For the sake of 20 I will not destroy it. Then he said, Oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak again but this once. Suppose 10 are found there. He answered, For the sake of 10 I will not destroy it. And the Lord went his way when he had finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. The 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed himself with his face to the earth and said, My lords, please turn aside to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you may rise up early and go on your way. They said, No, we will spend the night in the town square. But he pressed them strongly, so they turned aside to him and entered his house. And he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people to the last man, surrounded the house. And they called to Lot, Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, that we may know them. Lot went out to the men at the entrance, shut the door after him, and said, I beg you, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Behold, I have 2 daughters who have not known any man. Let me bring them out to you, and do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof. But they said, "Stand back." And they said, "This fellow came to sojourn, and he has become the judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them." Then they pressed hard against the man Lot and drew near to break the door down. But the men reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house with them and shut the door. And they struck with blindness the men who were at the entrance of the house, both small and great, so that they wore themselves out groping for the door.
So let's just kind of walk through it, and then we'll go through some specific details, okay? Like we always do. And the Lord appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre. Okay, so let's stop there. The oaks of Mamre. Okay, in the story of Abraham, we've talked about sitting by oaks before, and the oaks of Mamre so we've talked about the oaks of Mamre before, Genesis 12, right? That's where the Lord appeared to him. And then we've talked about Mamre, the coalition of five, where there were giants involved. We talked about that was the giant episode, right? Yeah. And so Abram defeated the people that had defeated the giants, right? The coalition of kings, right? So he and his guys, including his ally Mamre, defeated that coalition of kings that had defeated the giants. Seasoned warriors that had not only conquered lands, but had conquered the giants. And Abram and his guys, including Mamre, defeated them. So Mamre is an important guy. He's a man, all right? So it's called the Oaks of Mamre. Now, some people have speculated that Mamre was a large statured individual. Okay, why? Because he lived this oaks. The Oak of Mamre is near Hebron, and later we're going to see where Hebron is where it's called Kiryat Arba. Arba was one of the giant Nephilim, right? And then we'll talk about that as we continue in our story. But Arba was one of the giants, and so sometimes that's what Hebron is called, Kiryat Arba. And so, anyway, it's possible. Some people have speculated. There's no evidence of this. There's no biblical precedent for this, that Mamre was actually one of these Nephilim giants too. But we don't know.
Could be. And
so these oaks of Mamre are near Hebron. Okay, so the oaks of Mamre, which we talked about before, remember we talked about that, probably meant teacher or wise person. And so those are at Shechem. So Shechem is close to where Nablus is. So we're all talking about the West Bank. Remember, if we're looking at the geography of modern day Israel, Palestine. So we have Israel, and then Jerusalem's kind of right on the eastern side, middle of the country. And so there's a kidney-shaped area called the West Bank, all right, and it's bordered on the east side by the Jordan River, right? And it's called the West Bank because it's on the west bank of the Jordan, right? That's why it's called that. So Nablus is a city kind of in the middle to north of Jerusalem. And that's where that Shechem was, and that's where the Oak of Mamre was. And then south of that, kind of just to the east of where Beersheba is where modern-day Hebron is, okay? And so that's where the Oaks of Mamre were. So remember, we talk a lot about, in the story of Abram, the covenants and the well, Beersheba, Beersheba. That's where it's in that same area, kind of where Hebron is, where these Oaks of Mamre is. So that's kind of the area where Abram is at this point, okay? Gotcha. So as the Lord, what to him? Appeared to him. Okay, so we're not, and we'll get into this later. Remember that famous Exodus. We're going to talk about the famous Exodus 33 passage. The Lord appeared to Abraham. He appeared to him at the Oaks of Mamre. So that's
wait. I thought that if you see God, you will die.
You do. That's what Exodus 33 says.
On here?
Yeah, what is going on here? And we've talked about this many times
we have.
before, but it's really not that hard it's not that hard to understand, okay? The Lord manifests himself in a way because he wants to be with his people. He wants to interact with his people, all right? So he's trying to convey something to Abraham. He's already gone through it. We've since Genesis 11, Genesis 12, when he first started the covenant with them. We went through Genesis 15, we went through Genesis 17, all these covenantal things that we've talked about throughout. The Lord has appeared to him, walked with him, brought him outside, showed him things. You know, this is a relational type thing. It's not just some spirit, you know, this non-corporeal spirit just floating in the air, putting things into your mind. That's not what's happening here. And every single chapter we've talked about this. It's clear and it's the same. It's consistent, right? The Lord appeared to Abram. So this is a physical, visible manifestation of Yahweh. Yeah. All right. He's manifested himself in a way that this human, Abraham, who's a real human, that's sitting. I mean, he's sitting at the door of a tent here. Yeah. Right. That's the next phrase. He sees the Lord and he's appearing to them. Okay. Mm-hmm. He's sitting by the door of his tent in the heat of the day, right? So he's inside because it's hot. Yeah. Right? That's what they did. So I've had the honor of walking through Bedouin areas, and with there's not that many that still use tents, like real tents, like really live there. Right. But they know how to open the door, the flaps of the tents. They know how to open it so to maximize the wind flow. Mm-hmm. All right. Just over the years, they know exactly what to do. They know where to position it. They know how to open it. They know which direction the wind's going to blow. And so, you know, Abraham was kind of like a Bedouin guy, right? He had tents and he knew exactly where to position it. So when it was hot, he would open the tent flap and sit there so that he could not be like burning up, sweating to death, right? That's what's going on. He's a real man. These are really things that are happening, and he's being practical here, sitting on the heat of the day. And that's when the Lord appeared to him. Okay, he looked up, and and behold, 3 what?
Men.
Okay. Doesn't say 3 spirits floating in the desert.
No.
Okay.
3 men.
There was these rocks and they were floating above it. No, there were 3 men standing in front of him. Okay. This is, they're not non-corporeal beings. These are real people that have manifested themselves as humans. Look, I mean, that's what it says. Okay. When he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, and he bowed himself to the earth. Okay. Why did he bow himself to the earth?
Well, he clearly thought they were to be worshipped.
But how? He just sees 3 guys. Yeah. If you see 3 guys coming, do you just automatically run and go bow to them?
Typically, no.
Why would he bow to these guys?
Yeah, I mean, there was something about their presence that...
There's something about their presence. That's one. The other thing is, he's seen them before. Yeah. I mean, again, Genesis 12, Genesis 15, Genesis 17. Mm-hmm. We've seen the Lord appear and physically manifest himself and visibly manifest himself over and over and talk to them. He knows his voice. He knows him when he sees. Mm-hmm. If I see Brad coming, well, first of all, my dogs will start barking if anybody comes to my house. They're insane. I mean, they are literally insane. Yeah. But anyway, so I know somebody's coming. So I know somebody's coming because the dogs are barking. So I look outside my window, my front door, and I see Brad. Well, what do I do? How do I know it's Brad? How do I know it's you when you come?
You said, because you know what
I know you. I've seen you before. Yeah. If you call me on the phone, you don't have to say, "Hey, this is Brad." Yeah. Well, I know because our phones nowadays say Brad. Yeah. You know? Right. So I know.
But if I called you on our old landline,
yeah, I would hear Brad's voice and I would know it's Brad because I know him. I know his voice. I recognize him because I've seen him and heard him before. Yep. And Abraham is the same way with these guys. There's these 3 corporeal men. It says men, Ish. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Yeah. These men standing there, and he sees them and he bows to them because he recognizes them. He knows one of them is the Lord. Okay,
yeah, that's right.
And he said, verse 3, O Lord, Yahweh. Okay. He knows it. He knows who it is. If I have found favor in your sight, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought and wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree. while I bring a morsel of bread that you may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant. Okay, so what does he do? This is the cultural thing that they do, right?
Yep.
All right.
Hospitality, man.
Yep. So people, when they're walking during this day, they didn't wear boots. They didn't wear the type of shoes we have now, right? They didn't have closed-toed boots or shoes that we have now. They were like sandal type things, the easiest things that they could make from the materials that they had. All right. So when you're walking on non-paved roads in the dirt, in the desert, with sandals on your feet, what happens to your feet?
They get real dirty.
They get really dirty for two reasons in culture, and even in some cultures today. You wash each other's feet. You wash feet when they come to your house. Why? It's for two reasons. One, the first reason is that so
you don't dirty up the floor in the house.
Yeah, they're gonna check all that dirt and junk all into your house and in your tent.
Yeah.
So you don't want all that stuff. They're stepping in animal stuff, and who knows? So you clean their feet so that they don't track into your house, right? The second reason is it's to show hospitality to them, because their feet are dirty and you're showing that you want them to be clean, okay, in your presence, all right? So one, he does that. He washes their feet, and then he brings some snack. If you've ever been in a Bedouin, this is Arab culture, but especially in Bedouin culture, all right? So I would go in, we'd visit, we'd do all the greetings that take 10 minutes. They don't wash feet anymore, but we do take shoes off. All right. So we take shoes off because we have normal shoes now. So taking shoes off is the same thing as washing feet was back then, right? So it accomplishes the same purpose. So you take shoes off, you enter their home, you do all the greeting things, and then you sit down and they bring you a snack and tea or coffee. All right. The rich Bedouin would do coffee. The one that were not so rich, they would do tea. And let me tell you something. This is the sweetest tea you've ever drank before in your life. It is. Seriously, I developed diabetes because, I would go and we would visit, families and families and families and families and families during a day. I would drink literally like 25, 30 glasses of tea. And this is like Southern sweet tea. Like your grandma would make the sweetest tea possible.
But it was hot.
And it was hot. Instead of grandma's was iced tea, but this is hot, all right? So you drink it, and you're like, there's so much sugar. It's like a pound of sugar that you've consumed during the day. Anyway, so Abram doesn't do that, but they have water and bread that you may refresh yourselves, and after that, you may pass on, since you've come to your servant. So they said, do as you have said. That's hospitality. That's the culture, right? Abraham went quickly into the tent, and Sarah, and said, quickly, 3 seahs of fine flour, knead it and make cake. So he's going to make them some food, or make Sarah make them some food. Yeah. And Abraham ran to the herd, all right, and took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to the young men, who prepared it quickly. Then he took the curds and milk and the calf that he had prepared and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree. Remember, the tree of Mamre, Mamre's tree.
While they ate.
While they ate. Okay.
So spirits can't eat, right? Or can they? I don't know. But to my knowledge, spirits can't eat.
So listen, it reminds me of like some of the old TV shows. So if you ever see Casper the Friendly Ghost and things like that, and he has those 3 bad ghosts that are with him, right?
Yeah.
And if they ate something, what happens?
It went right
through them, right? They would eat something and it would just drop right through them, right? Because they're spirits. So if these 3 guys are spirits, what's going to happen? They're going to eat this stuff, and it's just going to go right through them, right? But they're not. They're men. They're physical. We don't understand. How in the world can a spirit physically manifest? How can Yahweh physically manifest? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a mystery.
I have no idea, but they did.
Yeah,
because they're eating and they're walking and they're getting their feet washed. This is a physical thing here. Okay, all right. So they're eating. They're not just non-corporeal things, spirits. They're bodies. They're physically manifested. All right. They said to him, "Where is Sarah, your wife?" And he said, "She's in the tent." Who said? The Lord said, Yahweh. I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, shall have a son. And Sarah was listening. She was dropping eaves.
Yeah, she was. She was dropping eaves.
Sarah was dropping some eaves. She was listening in the tent door behind him. If the Lord comes, you want to listen to what he's saying.
True.
So I don't blame you, Sarah. Now, Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in years. And we know he's at least 99 at this point, right? Because it said that in chapter 17.
That's true.
That's when he was circumcised, right? The way of women had ceased to be with Sarah. She'd already gone through menopause.
Right.
All right. So,
I mean, physically, pregnancy is impossible.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 100 years old, 99, 100 years old, and she's, probably not too far away from that.
Yeah.
Remember, she's his half sister.
Yeah.
So she's not, she's within stone's throw of that.
Yeah, exactly.
90 or so. I don't know any 9-year-olds having babies.
Nope.
I've never heard of one.
No.
All right. Verse 12. So Sarah laughed at herself,
Yeah.
saying, after I am worn out and my Lord is old, shall I have pleasure? So she laughed.
Yeah.
Remember, that's key. That's
It
key.
is.
That's where Isaac's name comes from. The Lord, Yahweh, said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, shall I indeed bear a child now that I'm old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time, I will return to you about this time next year, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. He said, no, but you did laugh. Okay. I mean, this is a humorous
It is.
kind of situation. It's funny, not funny type thing,
It is,
but
it
it's
is.
human nature. It shows a lot about human nature when we're thinking about this conversation. So Abraham's in the all right. So in the tents, when you have this big tent, mostly modern day, it's made of goat hair, right? So they make it out of goat hair, and it's got dividers. It's like rooms. They have rooms in these tents because they're. I mean, it's not like
Especially Abraham, he was rich, so he would have had a
he would have had a really big tent.
Yeah.
So it's not like me going out to Oak Mountain State Park with my 1-man or 2-man tent, a little pop-up thing. That's not the type of tent he has. It's the house. It's his house.
Yeah.
It's a really big house. So think of like if you see the movies of kings on war campaigns,
Yeah.
So like if you look at some of the old war movies from, the Middle Ages or before, the kings on war campaigns, any of those movies that depict those similar type things. So that they would make camp, right? And in the camp, they would have tents for all the soldiers, right? They would have the barrack tents. Some of them will be individual tents for a certain number of soldiers, but they would have the barrack area, and then the officers would have their own tents. And if the king was with you on campaign, he would have this really big, large tent, multiple rooms. Okay, so if you've seen Harry Potter, when they go to the competition, and they have this pop-up tent, and they make the tent, and it's this really small tent, and then they go inside, and it's like this huge, it's magic. So anyways, it's not like that, but Abraham has a large tent, all right, with multiple rooms. So when he invites his guests in and they sit down, he washes his feet. They go and they sit down. They probably have little cushions of some kind that they sit on, like they do today. So they'll sit down on the ground, and they're just talking like men do. Now remember, okay, it said he went and Sarah's baking bread, or Sarah's got her servants to bake bread, right? And then he went and got a calf, and he killed it, and they're cooking it. So how long does it take to kill, prepare, cut up, butcher, and then roast, cook, prepare, and roast? And
hours.
That's a long. This is not like I'm going to put some in the microwave, and in a couple minutes it's going to be ready. It's hours, right? So they're sitting there. While they're sitting there, what are they doing? They're just talking, like people do.
Exactly.
All right. So the art of conversation, the art of hospitality, these are the things that in this culture that they were practicing. Okay. So they're just sitting there talking, and while they're talking, they talk about. What would it be like to do small talk with God, with Yahweh? You got God and two of His chief angels that are sitting there in your tent with you. What do you talk about?
That's a good question. I wouldn't be able to bring anything to the conversation other than 1,000 questions, maybe. I don't know.
So we don't know. It doesn't give us all the details about what they're talking about, right? Maybe they're just sitting there. I don't know. It's silent. Silence is golden. I don't know. But anyway, we know the Lord starts talking about stuff, and He says, this time next year, I will return, and Sarah's going to have a baby. All right. So you got while they're sitting there waiting on all the food and stuff to be prepared, the Lord brings this up. And can you imagine? They're sitting in the main area, like the living room area, right? Where you entertain guests, okay? And then there's a divider, and then that's where the other rooms and the kitchen area where you would be serving food and providing food, preparing the food would be. And Sarah's behind the tent over there in those other rooms, and she's dropping eaves over there, right? She's listening to what they're saying. Think about it. It's human nature. If I was entertaining like the Lord of the universe that created all things, and he's got these two chief angels with him, do you think your wife might be interested in what was going on in there? Sure. Everybody, just human nature, everybody would be just standing there trying to find out what's going on here. She's not allowed to come in there, but she's standing there, and obviously the Lord knows she's there. So he says, she's gonna have a baby, and she's thinking to herself, right?
Yeah.
She's thinking to herself, and she chuckles, she laughs, and thinks to herself, "Oh, I'm old, I'm gonna have a baby," and then the Lord calls her out on it, right?
And that's the funny part there. She's like, "Well, wait, I didn't say that."
Yeah, Sarah, yeah. Why did and then he doesn't say it to Sarah, he says to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old? Just the way it's written.
Like, whoa, I didn't laugh.
Yeah.
I didn't laugh.
Is anything too hard for the Lord? That makes me think of some of Jesus's parables where he said nothing is impossible with God.
Yeah.
That's
right.
So anyway, at the appointed time I will return and Sarah will have a son. And like you said, Sarah was like, "Oh no, I didn't laugh," because she was scared. This is Yahweh.
She was called out.
And then he's like, "Oh no, you did laugh."
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And it just shows that the Lord does have a sense of humor, because what do they name the baby?
Isaac.
Yitzchak.
Yeah.
He laughed. Yep, Yitzchak. It's just a play on Sarah laughing and Abraham laughing.
Yeah.
Yitzchak, right? Funny. It's just funny how. Okay. Then the man set out from there, and they looked down towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to set them on their way.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess this is after they've eaten and stuff. We're not given the full details of everything they talk about. Again, that I want to know what they talked about.
Yeah.
I want to know all the details.
How good was that meat too?
Yeah. Did the Lord like it? Was it tasty?
Surely it was.
If it wasn't good, did he just zap it and say, Psh, made it good? What kind of food do angels like?
Good question.
And the Lord like? I don't know, but those are interesting things. Okay. So this is after all this, they've done all the hospitality stuff, and then they're about to leave, and Abraham went with them to set them on the way. The Lord said, shall I hide? Who's he talking to?
Maybe the two entities with him, the two angels with him.
Shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? For I have chosen him, that he may command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing this theme over and over again, righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has promised him. Okay, what is the Lord looking for in his nation? All right. If you ever wonder why the Lord called out Deuteronomy 32, he gave the nations to the sons of God as inheritance, but he called Jacob, he called Israel as his possession, right? He's the one that called them out. He's the one that called Abraham. He made the covenant with him. Why? What are the things that he requires? Righteousness and justice. Okay. Over and over again, we're going to see this theme. The Lord wants his people to experience righteousness and justice. That's the thing. That's his standard. Righteousness and justice over and over again. And we get off track sometimes. We start chasing rabbit trails about, all the details of theology and doctrine and, what our political ideas of justice are, things like that. We get caught up in politics, personal agendas, things that we like. But the things that the Lord requires are righteousness and justice. Okay, those are the things that he means. Remember? Tzaddik. Yep. The Lord is remember? Melchizedek. Tzaddik. Righteousness and justice. All right? Okay. That's what he wanted from Abraham, is righteousness and justice, to teach that to his children, to propagate those chief morals, those chief values that the Lord requires. Yeah. Okay, verse 20. Then the Lord said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great and their sin is very grave, I will go down to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry that has come to me. And if not, I will know. Okay. So this is the Lord. This is Yahweh. All right. Mm-hmm. You don't think he knows what's going on down in Sodom and Gomorrah? Does he know what's happening?
Of course he does.
So is he like these mythological gods like Zeus and Hermes? It was the Jupiter and Mercury version, the Roman version that we saw in the other story, the Ovid Metamorphoses story, that he has to come down to actually see what's happening, to actually experience what's happening? Is he like that? So why does he have to come down to see what's happening himself?
Well, he doesn't have to. So it's really just a way for us as humans to understand what he's doing. He's essentially humanizing himself.
That's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
He wants to see what it's like as a man.
Yeah.
Okay? To see how people treat him and how people interact with him, and see if it's really as bad as for humans as what he sees cosmically. Right?
Maybe, yeah.
That's that's one of the many reasons why Jesus came. So he had to experience exactly like what it was to be an incarnate person in order to live that perfect life. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that's part of it. We don't know exactly why. I mean, we don't know why.
Right. Exactly.
But I think that's kind of part of it. That's what a lot of the commentators think. Okay. So the men, this whole story is just so interesting. So the men turned from there and they went towards Sodom. Okay. So they're at Hebron. Remember? Let's look at our geography here. So Hebron is just to the east of Beersheba. It's in the West Bank. Beersheba's not in the West Bank. Modern day West Bank, right? Mm-hmm. Modern day West Bank, Hebron is. Okay? To the east of Beersheba. And then, so Sodom and Gomorrah are kind of even kind of further east than that. They're down in the valley that leads down to like where the Dead Sea is. Mm-hmm. Okay? So where the Dead Sea is today, that's heading that way from Beersheba, Hebron, down kind of east of that. That's where these cities are. Mm-hmm. And apparently at this time, remember, we didn't read this in our study, but that Lot, when Abram at the time and Lot separated, Lot chose this area because it was like the most fertile area. All right. So Abram said, you choose whatever you want to, and I'll go the other way. And Lot chose this fertile area where Sodom and Gomorrah were. So again, at that time, it was really, really fertile. Okay. Today, it's not. Okay. It's not. It's rocking. It's like deserty rock type thing. All right. Where it would have been. But in that time, it must have been really fertile because that's why Lot chose it. Okay. So they went towards Sodom, but Abraham still stood before the Lord. Okay. So these two guys, so there's three men, two of them go down towards Sodom. Mm-hmm. And then the Lord stays with Abraham. Mm-hmm. Or Abraham stays with the Lord, right? Then Abraham drew near and said, will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Mm. And I love this. I mean, this is just...
Yeah, this conversation between...
It's just an amazing conversation. Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you then sweep away the place and not spare it for 50 righteous who are in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to put the righteous to death with the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked. Far be that from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just? Mm. So he's, using the Lord's values against him in negotiation, ways, yeah. Right? And the Lord spoke, if I find 50 righteous in the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Mm. And Abram answered and said, so it's just typical Middle Eastern negotiation. It's just beautiful. I mean, it really, culturally, it's just absolutely amazing. So Behold, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just going to summarize and just say, because he goes down 45.
Yeah,
and then
we don't have to read the whole thing. So he says 45 and then
30 and then 20
and then 10. And that's kind of where they
yeah.
Abraham thinks for sure there's 10 righteous there.
Surely, but there's not.
Okay.
It says,
And
for the sake of the 10, I will not destroy it.
the Lord went his way. Where did he go? We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
When he had finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Okay. So again, they're away from where so they were at Abraham's tent, right? Mm-hmm. That's where he said Sarah's going to have a son. Sarah laughed. She said, no, I didn't. And the Lord said, oh, yes, you did. And then they're going on they had their meal or whatever. Mm-hmm. They're about to leave. So they go away towards Sodom. So somewhere between Abraham's tent and Sodom is where Abraham and the Lord have this conversation, this negotiation, right? And then the Lord went on his way, wherever he went, whatever that means, and Abraham went back to his house, okay? And then, so let's talk about these three guys, okay? So much debate has happened about the identity of these three guys. Now, I think it's pretty clear that it says one of them is clearly the Lord. I mean, because it says he talks to Yahweh over and over again, many times in this passage. At least 3 times that he talks about, he's talking to Yahweh, all right? And he addresses him as such. So one of the guys is Yahweh. Who are the other 2 guys? Well, much debate has happened. And also much debate whether they're really physical guys or not. And we're going to talk about why they are really physically manifested people. I mean, we've talked about many of those things anyway. All right. So determining who these visitors are is tricky, okay? A lot of traditional Jewish people just can't imagine the Lord being a man, the Lord manifesting himself as a man. There's several reasons for that. One, and I think the most obvious is because they don't want to appear to give any credence to Christianity and the claims of Christianity that the Lord actually became a man. Okay, I think that's the most important thing, is they just want to stay as far away from that as possible. So it can't possibly happen, right? It's kind of the opposite. It's kind of the same. People that have critically broken down the Scripture in general, the Bible, and said miracles can't possibly happen. Spiritual events and spiritual entities can't possibly happen. They can't possibly be, even though spirituality has been around, manifested for as long as men have. It's just like we're so enlightened now that we know that those are just, mythologies and superstitions and things like that. Come on, man. I mean,
that's part of the reason we're doing this show.
Yeah, listen to episode 1. Yeah. Spiritual things happen. Yeah. The world's not just made of material things. Yeah. As Hod and Cosmos say, it's not just stuff.
Not just stuff. Yep.
It's, there's spiritual entities and spiritual battles, and the whole Bible is about spirituality. So you cannot say you believe the Bible and don't believe in the spiritual world.
Yeah, of course.
It's just, anyway, this is kind of the opposite of that. God is spirit. He's only spirit. Mm-hmm. He can't possibly become physical. Okay, that's what their argument is. Okay? So, but we saw several things. So Shlomo Meir argues that in the passage, the presence of the Lord appeared to Abraham. Hashem, remember they don't say Yahweh. Yeah. Hashem was not in human form, since God can't be a man. The 3 men who visited Abraham were all angels. Okay, I agree that they were all angels, except for
one.
Clearly, he's speaking to Yahweh, right?
Because he uses the word Lord. Yeah.
Meir holds that God is a spirit and not a man, and I think we can all agree with that.
I mean, God says that.
Jesus says that.
Yeah, God is spirit.
When he's talking to the woman at the well, he says, God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth, right? Absolutely. 100%. Everybody would agree with that, unless you just disagree with Jesus, right?
Right.
So anyway, the question, however, is whether or not God ever took the form of a man prior to the incarnation, all right? So there's a couple of interesting things that about Shlomo's exegesis of the passage, all right? First, he provides no textual basis for his claim that these visitors were angels rather than men. He merely says it so. right?
Yeah.
Yet we saw in verse 2, the Hebrew word is ish, right? Man, not malach,
Right.
right? Angel,
Yeah.
which we've talked about in detail, or which means messenger and angel, right? Second, in verse 3, Abraham refers to the three visitors as Adonai. We've talked about Adonai before, okay? If you're saying, my Lord, if you know the honorific title, my Lord, Adonai, okay? But if you say Adonai, we've talked about this many times before, Adonai means my lords, my lords, okay, plural. That's what it means, okay? So it's a singular possessive ending, but it's plural because of the I, right? So he referred to these three men as God, okay?
Yeah.
Third, if we keep reading, it becomes evident that in this passage, it's referring to three physical men. In verse 4 through 8, he gives them water. He washes their feet. He gives them water. They eat. They rest under a tree. They sit down. They're physical.
It says that Abraham walked with them.
Walked with. I mean, they appeared to him, so it's not like they're just these spirits.
Yeah.
These are physical traits. Okay, these are all physical traits. It reminds us of Jesus after the resurrection, right?
Yeah.
Even though he can pass through doors, he still ate with them. They touched him. I mean, he was a physical body, but he was spiritual also at the same time. He was kind of both, and it seems like these guys are manifested in the same similar type way, right?
Yeah.
So being physically manifested, and whatever that means, it's clear in the text. Okay. In Genesis 8, 9 through 15, there's that conversation between Abraham and his three visitors. We have to pay attention to the pronouns because in this passage we see the same three visitors referred alternately as they, men, he, and Yahweh. The text says that they asked, "Where's Sarah, your wife?" And Abraham told them that she is in the tent. Then he told Abraham, "I'll be back in the spring and she will have a son." Then Sarah, listening from the tent, laughed. That's when she laughed because she was old. Then Yahweh repeated to Abraham that he would return in the spring and Sarah would have a son. Then Sarah denied it. And he said, "But you did laugh."
Right.
Then in verse 16, the men set out from there. Okay. So it kind of, it's this same idea of singular yet three, one yet three. Okay. It mixes the pronouns.
Yeah.
Okay. So it makes it unclear exactly who's saying what. If it sounds like sometimes all of them are saying it, or exactly who it's referring to with the pronouns. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Lastly, we can confirm that who was speaking in this passage by looking at Genesis 21:1, which says, "The Lord, Yahweh, visited Sarah as he had said," which he prophesied here. He said he was going to. "And the Lord, Yahweh, did to Sarah as he had promised." What did he promise? That she was going to become pregnant and have a son, right? Yeah. Miraculously. This is an unambiguous reference to the promise that he made here in Genesis 18. Therefore, we know it was Yahweh who said he would return and that Sarah would have a child. So in verse 2 in chapter 21, and it says, "And Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age at the time which God," that's Elohim, "had spoken to him." So,
I mean, that feels like that ends the debate right there. I mean, right?
I mean, it's not ambiguous.
It's
Not. Something now. The pronoun thing. Who exactly is saying what when? That's a different debate. But who is telling Abraham that Sarah's going to bear a son? It's clear because we're going to see when we get to chapter 21 that it's clear that it's Yahweh and Elohim that's saying these things. Okay, all right. Let's go back and let's read Exodus 33:12 through 20, and we're going to see a little bit more about God manifesting Himself. All right, so go ahead, Brad.
Moses said to the Lord, "See, you say to me, 'Bring up this people,' but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. Yet you have said, 'I know you by name, and you have also found favor in my sight.' Now therefore, if I have found favor in your sight, please show me now your ways, that I may know you in order to find favor in your sight. Consider too that this nation is your people." And he said, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." And he said to him, "If your presence will not go with me, do not bring us up from here. For how shall it be known that I have found favor in your sight, I and your people? Is it not in your going with us, so that we are distinct, I and your people, from every other people on the face of the earth? And the Lord said to Moses, this very thing that I have spoken I will do, for you have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name. Moses said, please show me your glory. And he said, I will make all my goodness pass before you, and will proclaim before you my name, the Lord. And I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and show mercy on whom I show mercy. But he said, you cannot see my face, for man shall not see me and live.
So Moses is just such an interesting and complex guy.
Very much.
Right? He grew up in Pharaoh's household, in the court. He, was raised, educated as Pharaoh's daughter's son, but he still had the Hebrew identity. Right, and we saw that when he took the Hebrew identity, and we saw the test, the guy arguing with the mistreating is what it says, the 2 Hebrew slaves. He killed him.
Yeah.
He killed him, and then he found out. Then he had to run away. Okay, so he has a temper, but he also he's complex. So he has a temper, but then he's kind of a coward.
Yeah,
right,
and shy. Yeah, very much.
So he runs away to Midian. That's where he meets Zipporah and his wife. He meets Jethro and Zipporah, and he gets married, and he becomes a shepherd in Jethro's house. And that's when he meets the Lord at the burning bush. We talked about that. Again, that's another angel of the Lord, physical manifestation. We've talked about that before. We'll talk about it more. So again, physically manifested. The Lord calls him. He said that's when he reveals his name, Yahweh, I was, I am, I will be. And he calls him to go back to Egypt. And Moses is like, nope, I can't do it.
I can't speak.
I don't have enough faith to do that.
Yeah.
I can't speak. You got to send somebody else. Yeah. There has to be somebody else. But the Lord doesn't relent and keeps calling him and actually gives him a spokesperson, Aaron. Yeah. Because he refuses to speak, apparently. Yeah. So again, lack of faith. So again, Moses is one of the great men of the Bible, right? Yeah, the Lord says, in verse 17 and chapter 33, for you have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name. Okay, so he loves Moses, and he wants him to succeed. He wants him to be the man. He's the one that calls him up on the mountain because he's the most humble man on the earth. That's what the Bible says, right? But he's got some character flaws, major character flaws, just like all of us do, all right? Yeah. So he doesn't have faith. He's got a temper, and then he's asking for something he can't have here. Yeah. All right. So he's having this conversation, and it's interesting. He says to the Lord, see, you say to me, bring up this people, but you've not let me know whom you will send with me. Okay, he did actually. Yeah. Remember, he said he was going to send the angel before him, and you have to obey him because my name is in him, my presence, my name. All right. I know you, yet you have said, I know you by name, and you have also found favor in my sight. Now, therefore, if I have found favor in your sight, please show me your ways that I may know you in order to find favor in your sight. I mean, he's talking in riddles here.
Yeah, he is.
It's a circular argument. Please show me your ways that I may know you in order to find favor in your sight. Consider, too, that this nation is your people. He just said the same thing 3 times, Moses. Okay. The Lord said, my presence will go with you. My presence will go with you. Okay. Who did he send with him? The angel. He's going to send his angel whose presence is before him and whose name is in him. Okay. And I will give you rest. And he said to him, if your presence will not go with me, do not bring us up from here. For how should it be known that I have found favor in your sight and your people? Is it not you're going with us so that we are distinct, I and your people, from every other people on the face of the earth? I mean, he just said he was going to send his presence. Right. He just told you, Moses. Yeah. He literally just told you exactly that his presence was going to go before him. So why are you still arguing?
I think, Moses is thinking physically. He's like, I got to have something tangible that I can show. And he's not thinking... He's, like you said, he doesn't have faith, so he's not thinking in a spiritual way.
Yeah, he's very insecure, and he doesn't have enough faith to just believe what the Lord says and it's going to do. Okay? Verse 17, and the Lord said to Moses, the very thing that you have spoken I will do. That's what I said.
He's getting frustrated.
Yeah.
Dude, I just told you.
You found favor in my sight. I know you by name. I've already said this 10 times. Yeah. Moses said, please show me your glory. Okay? Like you said.
don't think Moses knew what he was
So
asking.
remember where has Moses after this before this conversation? Mm-hmm. He's been on Sinai in the presence of the Lord.
Yeah.
Receiving all the standard, the standard of righteousness and justice that the Lord requires. That's what he's receiving. Mm-hmm. Okay, we talked about the righteousness and justice. That's what the law is. It's God's standard of righteousness and justice, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so he's literally for 40 days and 40 nights been up in the presence of the Lord. And then he's asking,
show me your glory.
Dude, what else do you want from me? The Lord's like, what else do you want from me? Okay. And he said, the Lord, I will make all my goodness pass before you, and will proclaim before you my name, the Lord, Yahweh. Mm-hmm. So what is he saying there?
I don't know. Outside of what it just says, I'm going to show you what you want to see, and you're going to know who I am. Yeah. Which he's already told him at the bush who he was already.
Yeah. So, at the bush he told him.
Yeah.
He's been with him for 40 days and 40 nights on Sinai. And in chapter 32, he just said, I'm going to send my angel before them, which contains my presence and my name. Yeah. That's who I'm sending before you. It's me. I'm going. Mm-hmm. It's me. I'm going. So it's the Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, he's saying, I am the one that's going to go before you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you keep asking me, show me your glory. Mm-hmm. And I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and I'll show mercy on whom I will show mercy. Yeah. But you cannot see my face, for man can't see me and live. Yeah. Okay? So you can't see the full glory of the Lord. What he's saying is, I'm going to give you my presence. I'm going to give you my name. I'm going to give you my physical manifestation that you can experience. You already saw it at the bush. You already saw it on Sinai. I told you in chapter 32, I'm sending this guy before you. That's my physical manifestation, my physical presence, okay? But you can't see my full glory and live. It's not possible, all right? So what do we have here? The Lord wants to be with his people. He wants to give goodness. He wants his goodness to go pass before them and proclaim my name, the Lord. He wants to show the standard of his righteousness and justice, right? He wants his name to be with them. He wants to know his people and know their name. He wants to experience life with his people, but he can't show his full glory. The spirit of Yahweh in all his glory can't just come down because it would just kill everybody. I mean, think, again, we've talked about this before. Wild. It's like Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? Yeah. I mean, if the glory, the Shekinah of the Lord comes out in all his fullness, faces are going to melt. Yeah. Right? Yeah. That's what's going to happen, right? Yeah. He's like, Moses, I don't want to melt your face, right? Right. So I'm going to give you everything, my physical manifestation, my goodness, my righteousness, my justice, my presence, my name. It's going to go before you. And it's the same thing with Abraham here. Okay. Yeah. This is who is here. This is who is experiencing this hospitality with Abraham. Yeah. Okay. It's the Lord in the physical manifestation that we can experience. It's the only way
that he can bring his presence before
without
us.
Melting our face,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay. Do we get that? I mean, it's not really that hard to understand. It's over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Okay.
Many times.
So this is the Lord he's physically manifesting himself in a way that humans won't die. Yeah. So that we can experience his goodness and his righteousness and justice, his presence and his name. We talked about the theologies of all these things so that he can walk with us and talk with us and experience life with us, eat with us, drink with us, get his feet washed, and then talk with us and know our name. Yeah. That's it. Okay.
Because he's a relational God.
He's a relational God. So what we get from this, and we saw it, and we've talked about this a little bit, and we're not going to belabor this point any longer. But there is definitely this idea of multiple Yahwehs that we see, okay? Is that polytheistic? No. It's Yahweh, the same God that's physically manifesting himself in a way, just like he talked about with that conversation with Moses, so that we don't die. Yeah. He wants to experience life with us. He wants to have a relationship with us without us dying. That's it. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. So interestingly enough, even Jewish scholars are beginning to reluctantly admit that the theological idea of the Trinity can be found in the Hebrew Bible.
Ooh, that is interesting.
I mean, it's clear that there's these multiple references to Yahweh. Yeah. So it's not just Yahweh in heaven, the El Elyon, God Most High, right?
Yeah.
It's this God who Jesus said God is spirit. That's Elyon.
Yeah.
But he has physically manifested himself in order to experience life and to convey ideas and things with humans, right?
Yeah.
And they point to this very passage as evidence, okay? This passage and that passage in Exodus 33 that we talked, 32 and 33. For example, Benjamin Sommer, a Jewish professor of Bible and ancient Semitic languages at the Jewish Theological Seminary of America, said, "We Jews for centuries have objected to the Trinity, have labeled it pagan, have said, well, it's clear the core of Christianity doesn't come out of the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh. Christians are being disloyal to the Old Testament. Actually, I think that's not true. To my surprise, I came to the conclusion, somewhat to my dismay, that the Jews have no theological right to object to the Trinity. Fundamentally, the theological model used by Christianity is a model that shows up in our own sacred literature."
Wild, actually.
If you read some of the church fathers
Yeah.
on the story of Abraham and these three visitors, they make a linkage between that story and the doctrine of the Trinity. Those three visitors became a harbinger of, a hint at the later idea of the Trinity. And they're correct that there is a link between the theological intuition that's behind the idea of the Trinity and this same theological intuition that's behind the story in Genesis 18. Wow. Benjamin Sommer, The Bodies of God in the World of Ancient Israel, is what we were quoting there. Okay. The men turned from there and went toward Sodom, and Abraham remained standing before the Lord. So were there three men plus the Lord? Was it the Lord and just the three men? And the other two continued toward Sodom. The beginning of Genesis 19 says the two angels entered Sodom in the evening. Here the word is Hamalakim, which means angels, right? The messengers, the angels with the right. Could this be that two of the three men that visited Abraham in the previous chapters? Are those two guys? If so, it would suggest that when the men returned and went towards Sodom, while Abraham remained standing before the Lord, only two of the men went towards Sodom, and the third man was God who stayed and talked with Abraham. Okay. Also, if the men visiting Abraham in chapter 18 were actually angels, they too appeared in physical form rather than spirits. We just talked about that.
Yeah.
This would be another biblical adventure of the spiritual beings taking physical manifestation, right? As we continue to read chapter 19, the two angels are physical men. There are also indications that they have a level of spiritual authority, which would suggest they were angels rather than men. Why? Well, they took people, pulled them in.
Yeah, they grabbed,
They grabbed. And then the spiritual part of it was they inflicted blindness on those guys of Sodom, right?
Yeah.
So they are able to touch. We saw in chapter 18, they're able to get their feet washed. They talk, they appear, they eat and drink, and then they walk.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in chapter 19, we see them grab people, and then spiritually, they're able to inflict some kind of plague on blindness.
Just like what you said earlier, the risen Jesus did the same things. He had physical and spiritual aspects to his risen body.
So clearly, these are divine beings.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other conclusion. And we see Yahweh as one of these beings. Okay. Whatever that means. All right. And he's talking and promising stuff and, eating and drinking and all the things that physical people do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we see this in the New Testament, though, is the question.
Yeah. So one of the main takeaways is this idea of hospitality. And we see this value being talked about in several different places in the New Testament, too. So let's read some of these here in Hebrews 13.
Starting verse 1, let brotherly love continue. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unaware.
Wow. Have we seen that anywhere?
Well, we just read it.
Of course we have, right? So that's what he's saying. He's saying so the author of Hebrews is saying, show hospitality. And we're going to see Paul, we're going to read the passage Romans 12 where Paul talks about the same type thing. The word for entertain, you have entertained angels is philoxenia. Philoxenia. Okay. It's the same word that's used in Romans 12:13 for hospitality. It was especially important in the first century for everyone, and especially for Christians. Okay. Remember, travel was not as easy back in those days as it is today. All right. So you couldn't even stop at like a quick stop and get little snacks and Coke. Right. You couldn't do that, right? They didn't have restaurants everywhere. They didn't have hotels everywhere. So if you were traveling and it took longer or whatever, you had to rely on strangers to feed you and show hospitality towards you so that you wouldn't die.
Yeah.
Again, when darkness comes, that's when the bad guys come out.
Yeah.
That's when the animals come out.
Yeah.
You're in danger at dark. So in order to be protected from all these unknowns in the dark, you had to rely on the hospitality of strangers and Christians in particular. Okay.
Yeah, especially this time. I mean, persecution was crazy elevated. And again, if you were out at night as a Christian, you had to also worry about getting kidnapped or beaten, put in jail. And it's another reason why Paul makes hospitality a huge part of the church.
Yeah, and it should be.
Yeah,
and we're going to talk about that. Let's read this passage in Romans 12 that Paul writes, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it.
Let love be genuine. Abhor what is evil. Hold fast to what is good. Love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Do not be slothful in zeal. Be fervent in spirit. Serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in tribulation. Be constant in prayer. Contribute to the needs of the saints, and seek to show hospitality.
So there's been books and volumes and sermons preached about and talked about and taught about all these ethics that Paul is talking about here. Yeah. And one of the ethics is hospitality. And really kind of all of them could mean hospitality. Yeah. It means honoring other people, okay? Showing honor to other people. And that's really what hospitality does, all right? It's just showing that those guys that are coming into my house, they're important to me. Yeah. You're important. The Lord loves you. I love you. And I'm going to honor you because of that. Okay. And so it's a thing we learned a long time ago. And it really kind of, when we, I don't know this happened to you too, but when we lived in other cultures, Middle Eastern type, especially Arab culture, they just shamed us. I mean, these are people that don't have the same Christian values. It's just part of their culture, and they do it because it's part of their culture in some cases. But they just shame us when it comes to hospitality. Yeah. I mean, they invite you into their home, and just like with Abraham and with the three men, he just showed hospitality to them. He sat and he washed their feet and he gave them food. He would have provided shelter as long as they needed to. All right. I mean, they said they were going to leave, so he let them, but he would have provided for them as long as they needed to. If they would have stayed a week, he would have. And it doesn't say they didn't stay a week. We don't know. They might have stayed more than one night. Exactly. I mean, we don't know, but he would have. And that's what we're supposed to do to each other. We're supposed to honor each other as if we're honoring the Lord. Okay, and the author of Hebrews says there may be angels. Yeah, there may be these spiritual beings that are physically manifesting that are visiting you. And there's been stories and stories and stories of people that think that's what happened to them. Okay, but this idea, this Christian ethic of hospitality, it's vitally important, and we are commanded to. I mean, this is a command by Paul. All right, contribute to the needs of the saints and seek to show hospitality. So to each other, we're supposed to honor each other and show hospitality to each other. It drives me crazy when people are stingy about stuff.
Yeah, especially calling yourself a follower of Jesus. It's not your stuff anyway.
It's really not. It's really not. So what we should do is we should have an open home. All right. So this is one of my pet peeves here. I have this really nice house. I can, whatever, and I got a gate that keeps people out.
Yeah.
Does that show hospitality?
Not at all.
That shows I want people out of here. I'm trying to keep people out.
Yeah.
Okay. But yet we should be welcoming and want people in.
Yeah.
All right. So those things, as a Christian ethic, I think that's against what the Bible and the ethics of learning from the Old Testament, learning from the New Testament are teaching us to practice in our lives. We should want people to come in. We should welcome people and provide for them. And be generous, be overly generous. It's better to be overly generous than to be stingy. So those are some of these ethics. And as we go through some of these stories, we're going to talk about some of these ethics that we should practice in our lives also. Be hospitable, show honor, be generous.
Amen.
You never know who's coming to your house.
You never know. You never know.
Be kind.
That's right.
Be hospitable. and all these ethics that we just talked about, like Abraham did with the Lord. Now, conclusion. Who were the three men? Well, one of them was Yahweh. They were physically manifested.
Clear.
It's clear. Yeah. All right. It points to the idea of the Trinity. It supports the idea of multiple Yahwehs. Yahweh physically manifesting himself, eventually the incarnation, right? But we see these over and over and over and over again, not just happening, but the Lord saying it's happening, that he's going to physically manifest so that he can experience life with his people, like we saw in Exodus 33.
Yeah.
Okay? Number one. Number two, hospitality. Love people. Show your love.
Amen.
Show your honor. Don't be stingy. Be generous like Abraham was. Okay?
And if I come over, I want some roasted.
Yeah, go kill a calf and make me, wash. One, you better wash my feet when I come in your house.
Yeah.
All right? Number two, I want
some slow roasted.
Go make me some fresh bread.
That's right.
And then slow roasted calf.
Oh,
Freshly killed calf from the backyard. Those are the three things I want. I mean, I think that's what Abraham is.
I mean, it's
showing
prescriptive. It's prescriptive, right?
Yes, absolutely. So those are if I come to your house, that's the three things I want. Okay, no. And if you come to my house, I guess that's what you should expect too. Yeah. Okay, but show hospitality.
Listen, I'll come to your house. We'll dig a hole in the ground and we'll slow.
I told you I owed you a steak dinner anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
oh, I guess I got that coming. Nice.
All right.
Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate you, man. That was fun. Learning about the world is not just stuff, and all the amazing ways the Lord interacts with his people. It's awesome to see.
It is awesome to see.
Thank you guys for joining us, and come back next time on Covenants and Kingdoms.
We'll see you soon. Bye.